the Golden Bachelor, the new show that is all the rage, has everybody talking, certainly those of us in the dating business, so to speak. Thanks for tuning into Second Act TV. I want to welcome back Sandy Weiner, the dating and relationship coach and the author of Choice Points in Dating. Nope, doing it wrong. I try to point and it's always the wrong way. Sandy, thanks for being here again.
Thank you for having me back, Soka.
Well, I look forward to our conversation today about the Golden Bachelor, the new show that is all the rage, has everybody talking, certainly those of us in the dating business, so to speak. If you haven't heard about the show yet, the Golden Bachelor or the Bachelor franchise, if you happen not to be familiar with it, we are now, well, there's a 71-year-old bachelor. Is that right, Sandy, Jerry?
Yeah, he's 71, 72, depending on what you read. His name is Gary. It's spelled
Gary,
Gerry. Yeah, it's really confusing. Gary Turner. He's from the Midwest. He is a widower. He's got this beautiful love story of his childhood sweetheart that he married and was married to for like 44 years. And right before they were ready to retire in their new home, she gets sick, and a month later she dies. And it's been like 6 years, and he doesn't look like any of the men that you're going to meet who are 72 years old. And the women who are on the show, the 22 women who come on, are not typical of women between 60 and 75. Like there's a 75-year-old woman there. But I love that they're showcasing this age group, and I'm so excited about that we're actually relevant. So that's really what I want to focus on today is, why is this show so popular? What are things that we like and don't like, and what can we actually apply to real life?
No, I totally agree. I full disclosure, I have never seen one episode of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. The whole idea that there's a group of women doing their best to compete for one man just is a turnoff for me. However, when you think about it, and this is entertainment, like you said, these are not typical people. This is television, this is entertainment. So I'm going to accept all that, because obviously over 7 million people turned. It's one of their most, successful shows, especially on a network show, in a very long time. You have here 3 things you like, 3 things that you don't like, and then 4 things that we can apply to real life dating. So let's start with the things about the Golden Bachelor you like. I think you said one that, they're appealing now to our age group, right?
Yeah, so it's really refreshing to see a show that appeals to our age group, that normalizes dating at this stage and celebrates people over 60, and that everybody deserves love. I think that a lot of people have given up hope. And so I think that's a beautiful thing. And people are all different, coming in from all different relationships. Some have had loss and can relate to his loss. Some are divorced, some have never been married. And I think it's good to see that they kind of had a wide range of people and jobs and all kinds of things.
And then it portrays aging in a positive light. And I have to absolutely, agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, these are active singles. They have interesting lives. They are fun. They bring their A game. And I think a lot of people think of people aging as being half dead. I mean, what is a grandmother, that image of I'm a grandmother, and I don't have white hair up in rollers. And, we've changed how we see people who are aging, which is good.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Well, let's talk about 3 things that we don't like so much. Number 1, you say here, it's not a realistic portrayal of the average 60 to 75-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people are trim and sexy and have had a lot of work done. Um, I think that, yeah, some people do Botox and facelifts and whatever out in the real world, but it feels like many of the faces have no wrinkles and they have hair extensions and all those things that not everybody has. And so I think it sets people up for, Gary, who's trim and has a full head of thick hair,
Hmm.
but he also has hearing aids. So that's
Hmm.
cool that they kind of brought him down
Yeah,
to earth with the hearing aids.
they
Yeah,
did.
so some people got really upset, and I know in my Facebook group, people were saying, it's going to paint people in the wrong light, and people have expectations that everybody should look like this, and
Hmm.
then men are going to get disappointed that the women they meet aren't wrinkle-free and gorgeous and skin-tight dresses. And
So it's building, it's again the media building an unrealistic expectation, like have for years and years and years. So yeah, I agree with that too. I think that obviously it's great to stay fit and do whatever you need to do to feel good about yourself. But I can see that this is, well, that's not me, and no, it's not you. And in a
exactly.
way, you don't really want that to be you.
Yeah.
So no, I agree there. And then here, this is a good one, that Gary seems to still be having a very hard time grieving over his wife.
So it's been 6 years and he
Hmm.
says he's ready, but it opens with him crying, and
Right.
he cries a lot throughout the series. I mean, he's a very sensitive person, and there are a lot of widowers who go out there, widows and widowers, but more widowers who start dating before they're ready. And
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm just saying that he seems to still be really grieving
Hmm.
deeply, and
Yes.
grieving doesn't stop, and you certainly can love more than one person, and I hope he does find love again.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I just have this feeling that he may have trouble opening his heart again in that way.
The first thing I thought of when they opened that, except what this is what they're how they're showcasing it, because again, that's one thing we talk about here. I have a whole playlist on starting over after the loss of a spouse. And when you're that emotionally tied still, not only is it that not good for you, but it's not good for the person dating you. There's somebody else in the room there with you. You're competing with the memory, is, and maybe I'm coming from a more immature, maybe insecure place, but I'm not alone with how women feel, or other men dating a widow. That's tough. That's very tough.
Yeah, and a lot of people start dating because they're lonely and they don't
Hmm.
realize that they're actually have torn allegiance.
Yeah.
I once had a date with somebody who all he did was talk about his wife the whole
Hmm.
time, and he was sad, and of course
Hmm.
he's sad. But
Yeah.
then I've met people who are ready, and I've worked with men who I am
Hmm.
actually working with two widowers right now, and they're both very ready. So everybody's different. It's just a
Yeah.
sense I had about him.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that it's sort of painted here that it's okay to date when you're still grieving. I guess I don't know, but I did, for the same reason you did. I thought that was worthy, to point out, or at least talk about. And then that aggression and manipulation wins.
Yeah, I mean, that's a Bachelor thing. I mean, it's
Hmm.
it's part of the appeal of the show. It's what creates drama, but you have to be pushy. You have to really assert yourself in order to be seen. I mean,
Hmm.
one of the things that's typical of the Bachelor series is people will come up to the person that they're trying to get the attention of, and they'll say, "Can I grab you for a minute?" And it doesn't matter if he's in conversation with another woman, they
Hmm.
just pull him away. Now, if
Yeah.
you're not aggressive and you're not pushy and you're not afraid to put yourself out there, if you are afraid to put yourself out there, you're going to lose. You're going to go home, and people who did go home in the beginning, they were like, well, I didn't even get time with him. Well, you
Hmm.
got to push. And so it's on the one hand, it's a good thing to assert yourself, but being manipulative is
Hmm.
not okay. I don't like it.
No. No, I don't either. And it's just a big turn. I think it's a big turn off. I do. I think it's a huge, huge turn off. And this is something that is the only reason that this is being, I think, showcased is because it's television. It creates drama on TV for people to watch, but this is certainly not something you should be doing in real life, in my opinion. Well,
Right.
let's talk about what we can apply to real life. The four things that you say, Sandy. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so the first one is kind of related to what we just said, but
Mm-hmm.
it's about being memorable. And
Mm-hmm.
so while these women were pushy and aggressive, a lot of them were super creative and they made the best impressions. And so coming out of the limousine, one of the women came out with a walker and a wig on and looked like she was like an old woman. Then she throws it off and has the
Yeah.
sexy clothes underneath. I mean, it made him laugh and it made him
Mm-hmm.
shocked. And, I'm not saying we should do that on a date, but I do
Yeah.
think we should.
Show up in a
We
walker
should.
with the.
I'm all about preparing and being memorable.
Mm-hmm.
So, whether it's wearing a color like this color I'm wearing now, or, fancy like a jewelry that you got maybe when you traveled and it's an eye catcher and it's a conversation starter.
Mm-hmm.
That's important because it's going to spark conversation that will not be typical. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think we should put some thought into being memorable, being creative, being a little bit more tasteful,
Mm-hmm.
but learning from that.
Yeah. Well, and putting our real selves out there. I mean, don't do
Mhm.
something just for shock value, which
Yes.
also happened, on this show and when they did that. But yeah, I agree with you. If you're not memorable, then you're easily forgotten, which means there was no interest. If you're memorable, there's interest.
Yeah, and also you can't, people who say, well, I'm like an onion and it takes a long time to get to know me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't have that luxury in
Yeah.
dating. If
Right.
you're going to hide your best self to the fourth date, you're not going to get there.
Right.
So I encourage people to bring more of that, bring that
Mm-hmm.
fourth date material to the first date.
Well, I think that goes to your point number two, shoot your shot. What do you mean
Yeah.
by that?
Yeah, it's like you've got to make that first impression.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this comes up when you're meeting people in real life. A lot of people are hesitant to go up to somebody at a
Mm-hmm.
bar or at a restaurant or at a networking event. Just go ahead and do it.
Just
I
do
mean,
it.
so many people have met the love of their life because they had the courage to say something,
Mm-hmm.
to make start a conversation,
Yeah.
to ask the person in the grocery store, what they're making for dinner. It looks like they're
Right.
making steak. Tell me about your recipe. I mean, this just
Mm-hmm.
starting a
Mm-hmm.
conversation, and otherwise most people are looking at their phones and
Mm-hmm.
they're not engaging.
Yeah, no, no, I agree. Well, and then be vulnerable. Share your feelings about the person you're meeting. We're not talking about, I don't think you're talking about being vulnerable about yourself necessarily, because that one might be oversharing, but saying something, a vulnerable compliment to the person you're
Yes.
with, if you're feeling it, of course, not just making it up, right?
Yeah, and if you watch The Bachelor, you can see how the women who were able to say things like, wow, you seem like such a sensitive person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really enjoying getting to know you. This is really just so meaningful to me, just to say something, you're better looking in person than you are in your pictures. That I have a
Mm-hmm.
client who every time we get on a call, she comments positively about something I'm wearing. That one little thing is just,
Mm-hmm.
it engages you. It makes you
Yeah.
like the other person more.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you can be a little bit more vulnerable, we hold so much back and just say what's on your mind,
Mm-hmm.
share something that you think you have in common. I mean, you see
Mm-hmm.
that on The Bachelor a lot too, where
Yeah.
people will say, it looks like, we both have loss and I can really relate to this. And you see his face light up. Wow, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
had that same experience. That's where connections happen.
I agree. I agree. And then be a great listener. And as you say here, that most women already do that, but it's a good reminder that never hurts.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of women will listen and not share anything about themselves because they're so
Mm-hmm.
curious about people. So they're not memorable because they haven't actually engaged. They're just listening. So I would say, he responded really well to the women who made eye contact, who
Mm-hmm.
really listened well to him, smiled, showed empathy, but also shared about themselves. So
Mhm.
it's got to be both. But I think don't forget to just listen without saying anything for a bit too, because I
Yeah.
think so many people are afraid of those silences and they want to fill every space. But just, listen and
Yeah.
reflect.
Yeah. Absolutely. And those are really good things to apply in real life. Again, my contention may not be the right word, but with this whole thing is that, and Gary, what a sweet man, what a nice guy. And my point here is that to me, and this is my opinion, we've had other discussions with this, like with Joni, maybe even I think you and I have. He, to me, is like the guy that every woman wants or says she wants. And then when she had them, was like, what am I going to, I just think he's too, what, do you know what I'm trying to say?
He doesn't have an edge. He's a little too
No,
nice.
he's just, yeah, I don't think that's what women want. I'm sorry.
I think what's interesting about him is he does have an edge. I think he's finding his dating legs at this point, and we'll see what
Okay.
happens as the show goes on. But they also put him in situations that make him a little more exciting. They put him in a sports car. They put him in, these situations because it's so extreme. The second
Mm-hmm.
episode, they had romance novel covers, and
Yeah.
the women were dressing up and posing,
I know.
and I mean, he wouldn't do that in real life. And so it's like, I mean, anybody would be like a deer in the headlights in this situation,
Mm-hmm.
especially a 72-year-old man who's
Yeah.
doesn't even know much about anything that's current. I mean, his grandkids were teaching him words that were current. So he's a little out of it. And we'll see. We'll see what
Yeah, we'll see.
happens. I
We'll
mean,
see. We'll see. I think in closing, what I would say is that, it's definitely entertaining and it definitely has us talking. It definitely got me to watch The Bachelor. I just don't want either both men or women to think that this is reality. There are things we can take away from it. Absolutely, like we discussed, but please don't think that this is based in any sort of reality. And I'll throw it over to you to to end us here, Sandy.
yeah, I mean, look, when I first started dating after my divorce, I thought I had to have like picture perfect skin, and I
Mm-hmm.
had to blow my hair out, perfectly, and wear contact lenses. And I actually didn't look anything like I do in my day to day. And I think that's kind of the image that we get from this show. It's
Mm-hmm.
like we're glitzed up and we're wearing tons of makeup, and most people don't like that. They like more natural looks. And so I don't want anybody to think they have to go out and buy an evening
Right.
gown and,
Right.
get a facelift in order to find
Mm-hmm.
love.
Right.
But I do think that there is a lot we can learn
Yeah.
from this show about how we can improve our own way of showing up and
Mm-hmm.
how we attract people and what engages and what
Yeah.
doesn't. And if you can take all the other stuff away and just focus on that,
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
it's a fun show.
And again, but what we said at the beginning, bravo for them finally, putting dating at an older age into a very appealing light. So that to me is the biggest thumbs up for the Golden Bachelor. So thank you. I think it's ABC. I know I watch it on Hulu.
Mhm. I watch
Tune
it on
in.
Hulu. I think it's
Yeah,
on Prime also. So yeah,
Prime
there's a lot
also.
of ways you can catch it.
Well, Sandy, and we will link to all of your information as usual. You want to talk to Sandy a little bit more about what, how to get on the Golden Bachelor or what to do in your life. Give Sandy a call. I'll link to your book, Choice Points in Dating. And I look forward to our next conversation on Second Act TV.